Hello and welcome back to AC's Make and Repair. If you haven't been on my channel before, my name's Arthur. I live in North Queensland, Australia. I'm glad to have you along if you're a first time viewer. Well, today we're going to be looking at routers. Now, I have quite a number of routers, as you'll see in a minute, and I'll explain why I have quite a number of them. In fact, out of all the woodworking power tools that I own, I have more routers than any other woodworking power tool. And there's a reason behind that. So I'm going to show you through these today. I'm not going to show you the uses of every one. I might explain simply, I've got this bit in this machine for this reason, but I'll go through and explain the styles I've got and give you a bit of a review why I like them or how I came to get them. Okay. So as you can see, there's quite an array of routers there. And there's quite a number of the same type of router too. As you look around, you might see several of the same style. So I'll just go through these quickly today with you, and I'll explain why I've got so many routers and explain the uses of some of them. Let me just say at the start, before I get too far into the routers and that, and I'll try to get through the rest of them pretty quick, because I don't want it to be a boring video. Some of these routers are El Cheapos. Literally, these old Black & Deckers, they weren't the best of things. They were very cheap handyman style router in their day. Some had a pistol grip like this. But the reason I have so many routers is, for one, I got them for near nothing, most of these. I either got them from a scrap yard or a recycle yard or a garage sale in a box full of other junk. Most of them probably had something simple as a dry bearing, or people just didn't know what they were and didn't know how to use them. And some of these things I only paid $2 for, literally. Some of them were given to me in boxes of junk that people wanted to get rid of. And with my work over the years, people chuck out stuff, and I've picked up the odd thing here and there too. But the reason I have so many is I don't like downtime. When you're doing something, it's so good to just be able to grab a router, and it's not going to work every time because there's a multitude of router bits out there. It's so good to grab a router with a bit on it and just go without having to change bits over. And literally, out of all the routers I own, I think I've only bought two brand new routers in my whole life. The rest have been second hand and either repaired ones. They were just basic things like I say, bearings were a common problem with the routers, and for a $5 bearing on most of these routers probably, or sometimes just as simple as cleaning the bearing up and repacking it with grease, they worked again, and they were fine. Some were missing different things like fences and that. That didn't worry me because I wanted them for other things. So that's the reason I have many routers, because you can have them set up ready to go with a small round over bit, with a large round over bit, with a chamfering bit, with a straight fluted bit, with template following bits, top bearings, bottom bearings, template bits, rebaiting bits, and all this sort of stuff you can have them set up for, and they're there ready to go. So literally, I probably didn't pay, besides the two brand new ones, I probably didn't pay the price of a brand new router for all the others I own. Literally, that's literal. I can remember one day I bought some router bits from a second-hand shop. I think I paid $30 for, at the time was probably over $200 probably worth of router bits, because they were good quality router bits. But in amongst them was two other routers, and the bloke sold them to me for $30. So I was wrapped. So like I said, these are just cheap old Black & Decker ones, but I use them every now and then just to do a one-off type of job that I don't want to pull bits out of other routers, and these do the job ample, just for light duty stuff. So I set them up in such a way I can use them for light duty work. So these are also a cheaper style of router. They're more of a trimmer router. There was quite a large variety of brands in this exact style of router. I bought out in Australia here. And most of these I got from scrap yards or recycle yards, like I say, for a couple of dollars each, literally. And a lot of the times it was as simple as a bearing, literally as simple as a bearing. Very rare that it was something. Some of them were still going when they were thrown out at recycle yards, at refuse tips, etc. So, you know, I've got these set up. This one's got a fluting bit on it with a little fence. So that's set up for that. This one here has got a fence on it, set up with a little dovetailing bit, probably for a sliding dovetail setup that I was doing or whatever. This one here's just got a straight bit on it, quite handy for doing hinge setting and stuff like that. This one's got a keyhole bit on it, good for mounting holes on the back of little shelves, etc., so they can be mounted on walls. That's a keyholing bit. This one here has a straight standard round over bit on it. It has a fence on it as well for some reason. I must have done that. And this one's got a pattern bit on it. So I can literally grab one of these when I want it with one of these bits in it and go. And it's quite great. So I also have one of these little cheap routers set up, and I've made another base for it, as you can see. And that router there goes in this little piece of melamine here, which was made up for. I'll just try to put that through without taking that lead off to show you. There you go. So as you can see, it goes in to that table, just comes out like that, sits in there, no worries at all. Also, I've got this slide set up here. You can use that for box joints, etc. But it's just quite a little handy little router table you can make out of a cheap router. Just a fiddly stuff. So moving right along, I have an old Makita trimmer. You know, all these are corded machines. People are going out of corded, so you can pick these up relatively cheap now. In some cases, people are throwing them out because they're going all battery. And the battery are really good, don't get me wrong. My brother-in-law's got a battery Makita trimmer, and it's such a handy little tool. Probably not as balanced as this little one, I find, because the battery makes them a little bit top heavy. But it's a good little router, no doubt. 100%. It's a great little router. And no doubt I'll see myself getting one day, because they're so versatile. You don't have to plug them in, just grab them and go. This one's set up with a little round over bit in it, probably about a quarter round over, and I just use it just to run over a job if I need a round over. It's quite good. I use that for several things as well, not just rounding over. Just a handy little router. Right, the next one is a Hitachi. This is a TR8, I think it was. I bought this many years ago. It's one of the only ones I bought brand new, and it's an 8mm and a 1/4 inch router. So you could put 8mm bits, or it's got a collet for the quarter router. Been a great 1 horsepower router. Fantastic. This is a bigger router. I forget how many horsepower this is. I picked this up. It's like new. I picked it up from a recycle yard. I got it for near nothing, just a few dollars, and it actually goes. It still had the plug, everything on it. It was fine. It's got a soft start on it. It's only a cheap one, but it's got a soft start. It's got micro adjustment. It's a plunge router, as the other one was just then. There's a lot of things about this router that's good. It's a 1/2 inch router. It's quite a handy router. I've used it several times on different stuff. It's not a router I use a lot, but it is so good for the speed controller, all that sort of stuff. So if I put a big bit in, I can turn the speed down accordingly. All right, the next thing I'm going to show you is some old routers I have. These are old Makita routers. Here's one here. They're a very common old Makita router. Very good to use. And I have 4 of them. They're probably one of my most favourite routers to use. I think Makita did a fantastic job. They're comfortable to use. They're not top heavy. A lot of your plunge routers, which have their function with the plunge capacity. But if you're just doing standard routing, these are great. They're stable. They're easy to control. You can put your hand on top like that. They're a really good router. Look, if you have an opportunity to get these, I'd strongly suggest grab them. They do come with a screw-in guide originally. This one I have set up for a through dovetail jig. It's just set up constantly for this through dovetail jig, and I never change that bit. That's the bit that's in it, that's the bit that stays in it. I have that and another router set up for that dovetail jig. This is just another one. It's got a 45 bit on it, rather large. These are both 1/2 inch routers. Got quarter collets for them too. This one here I set up with these two sleds on it. So when you've got to flush trim something on a flat surface, put a straight bit on it or a planer bit, and you can flush it off, no worries with this. You know, if you can imagine a straight bit in there, I'll just make sure you can see what I'm talking about. If you can imagine a straight bit in here, you can set it to whatever height you want, and you can even use it for trenching if you wanted to, but just for, I made it up for flush trimming. It hasn't got a bit in it at the moment, because I probably took it out for something else. This one here is set up with a straight bit, as you can see. It's got the original fence on it, and it's good. I've used it for rebaiting, obviously, and it's a great machine too. I got this and that other little trimmer from a garage sale for near nothing too. It was dirt cheap. People had been going to this garage sale for weeks and nobody wanted these two items. I thought, look at that. Great old Makita router and great little Makita trimmer. And they've been fantastic. They've worked for years for me. Alright, now I'm on my last two. This is a little Ryobi router. This one here is set up with a straight top bearing template following bit. I use this as my other bit for my through dovetail jig, and it's a good little router. There's nothing wrong with that router. It's a good little router. At one time, I believe Ryobi, and probably still do now, I don't know. Don't have a lot of Ryobi gear, but they were good machines. Nothing wrong with them. And that's got a nice little button on the trigger here, on the handle there. That's very easy to use, and it's ideal for that router jig. It's got a nice base on it. This one here is actually been damaged. I picked it up from as you can see, the base has been all buckled. You can see that. There you go. See it's bent. It's been dropped. I picked it up from a recycle yard or something, and had a straight bit in it. I only paid a couple of dollars for it, probably something like that, and because it was all bent and that, but it still runs fine. And what I'm actually going to do with it is actually going to make a copy carver out of that, because there's times that I need to do some copy type of work, and I'm actually going to use it. Might even remove the base and just mount it with the two plunge slides, and I think it'd be quite effective for that. I think it's a 3/4 horse, which is more than enough for what I'll be doing. So that's all the routers, and I'm just going to quickly show you some jigs that I use in conjunction with, well, it's not all the routers. There's some others that I haven't shown you. I'll just take a quick video of them at the end. But you know, with any router, you've got to have bits. I made up a simple rack years ago, and this is not all of them. I have some sets as well. And over the years, I've picked up individual bits on clearance sales, at hardware stores, at garage sales. You know, some of these bits have only been used once or twice. They're still in their packet. You know, somebody's bought them to do a job and they're just getting rid of all this gear, so you can pick them up relatively cheap. I picked a spiral flute bit up there a while ago. You know, it was an upcut, I think it was, 1/2 inch one, quite cheap. That can be very, very expensive, but the hardware store had bought it in for somebody and they changed their mind or something, and so they just sold it for cost, I think, or a little bit over cost. Very cheap it was, anyhow. Alright, so this is that through dovetail jig. Some of you might have seen this style of dovetail jig. It had these quick clamps on it. I bought this from overseas. It's quite a handy dovetail jig, and it's quite solid. It's a through dovetail jig though, and it's I've set that old Makita router up and that Ryobi router up full time to use with that jig. And with the one style of bit, you can go from thin stock right through to pretty well 3/4 stock, and I've cut all different styles of dovetail. Like that's about an 8 thick, that, and it cut them easily. This here is about 5/16 thick or 8mm thick, and it cut them easily. And this is pretty well standard. You can go from say 3/8 side to 3/4 front. Yeah, quite good. It's a very good jig, and you know you can with some. It's hard to explain. Some slight adjustment, cut thinner stock without changing the bit size, as people make you think you need to do. You can change the bit size. It's probably easier in the long run, but literally you can do it quite simply with just shims. I've made my own type of jigs just for different ones. This is different spacings, and they've worked fine too for different things. This is a blind dovetail jig that I made many years ago. As you can see there, this is just a bit of about 3mm lamy panel, and it made the comb up because your board sits underneath. It's made for 3/4 stock, and it works really effectively. You can use them for box joints too. This is another style of through dovetail jig. I'll just show you there. It's got a cam lock at the back, cam lock at the front. It's I bought this second hand, and when I got it home I realised that somebody had routed the comb with the router bit and gouged it out a bit. So I had to repair that, which was a bit of a shame because, you know, that was I didn't realise when I bought it that he'd gouged it. So I had to repair that, and one day I might even have to get a new one made. It's a bit of a shame, really. Alright, so there's all the jigs. I'll just show you some quick things at the end now in conjunction with this. Okay, so this is a little router table I've got. It's an old Triton router table. Look, I've set up a router. I only got the top section, so I had to make a frame up. And it's not the original frame, that's for sure. And I mounted, I think it's a 3-horse TR12 Hitachi underneath. It's a plunge router. Good router for the job. And it's fantastic for what it does. You've seen it in some of my other videos, this particular little router table. It's quite handy, and I encourage you, look, try and make some more right sort of gear. So if you ever see it around, it's worthwhile grabbing. Also have another sliding, it's a fold down leg sliding table, Triton router table too. Hasn't got a router on the moment, needs a little bit of repair, because somebody left it out in the weather and the MDF got a bit swollen. I picked it up second hand and I'm just going to repair it. Okay, this is the biggest router I own. It's an overhead router. It's a old Primo. I think they're made in South Australia. It's, like I say, it's an overhead router. You press on this pedal here to rise and fall the table. And at the moment I've got a planer bit in it that I use for rebating a fair bit. It's quite handy. But I'll show you probably the biggest. I use it for rebating a lot, this, but it's great for template following, like for colonial top doors, all that sort of stuff. Excellent for that type of thing. So you can also use these slotting bits, like for biscuits or fillets. They're quite good. This is a 1/2-inch collet in this particular machine. I have got a 1/4 collet that goes down in it, a stepper collet. You can also use these top joining bits. You can use a finger joining bit also in them. They're quite good too. But the thing I find the most beneficial is the pin capacity. So that's like a pin. This is a 5/8 straight bit, and I've made a 5/8 pin that goes in the bottom here. And you can put your template on the bottom and plunge your bit in as deep as you want to go. This is where it's got it over a standard handheld router. You usually haven't got the depth of plunge. This here, I think, has about 6-inch travel all up. which is quite good. The throat on it is about at least 3 foot from bit back to the arm, but you know it's unlimited widthwise, and you've got full control over your item. So if you're doing a colonial top door and you have your pattern on the bottom of your piece, you can actually follow your pattern after you've trimmed it on your bandsaw, that is, and trim it with the shape of that. Look, I've made so many different templates to use with the pin setup. I've got a 1/2 inch pin. I've got another big pin too. That pin's loose. I've got another big pin that I use with this bit here. And I've got other pins that suit different style straight bits as well. It's a very, very good machine, and you know it's been such a benefit over the years. So just for interest's sake, I just thought I'd show you a couple of old vintage routers that I have. This is an old Stanley number 8, and you could either use it as a standard router. It had a power plane attachment that went on the side. You could also get an overarm router kit for this. You could get a portable groover attachment for it. You could get a hinge butt router, for setting hinges, etc. Butt hinge setting. You could get a shaper attachment, which I actually was given when I was given this router. Dovetailing jig. I got the dovetailing jig too. Has three different size combs, and also there was a beading and fluting attachments that you can get, and a little grinder attachment. This one also had a little router bit grinder that you could actually put a grindstone in your router and actually put your bit in a little attachment that you could slide backwards and forwards over the grinder to sharpen your own bits. I'd suspect that's about 60 years old, just for interest's sake. And also, I have this old Black & Decker. I'd say it'll be at least 50 years old. You know, both these old routers work, and they work fine. This one has a little bit of a dry bearing, but not massively dry. It's just, you can tell it's a little bit dry, just needs packing probably. But otherwise, it's a good router. Both of them are good little routers. I have the shaper table for that other one, and it's quite a really neat little setup. You can actually tilt the bit and everything. It's quite a handy little setup. Just thought I'd show you how to interest some of you older fellas out there that might have worked with some of these years ago and know what I mean. Well, thanks for joining us on that video. Look, the main reason I did that video was to show you guys that, you know, some of you people can pick up these old routers relatively cheap at garage sales, yard sales, recycle yards, scrap yards, second-hand shops, etc. And look, you can pick them up relatively cheap. You can pick up a brand new little trimmer style router, corded trimmer style router, for near nothing online, brand new. And if it's just getting used intermittently, you could have, you know, 3 or 4 of these relatively cheap, and you can just grab them off the shelf and use them straight away. If you know you use 4 different styles of bits quite regularly, and you're sick and tired of changing bits, that's what drives me to this sort of thing. Not only I've got them very cheap over the years, just the changing of bits used to drive me crazy. Same with angle grinders, changing from a grinding disc to a cutting disc to a wire brush. So over the years I picked up second-hand angle grinders just to do different jobs. So, you know, it is a good thing. I mean, you've got to have the space to store it too. And I mean, if you're serious about your woodwork, it does come in handy having certain styles of routers set up with different styles of bits, and it's quite a handy thing. So I hope it's been a help to you, this video. If it is and has been, please like and subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. Please also share me if you wouldn't mind. That would be appreciated. There's that little share arrow down below the screen there, and that's quite a good thing if you could share me with your friends. Please, that would be appreciated. So thanks for joining us, and bye for now. Catch you on the next one.